You're not taking a single thing, drop that bag. My name is Cole Thatcher, 45 years old, custom home builder out of Dalton, Georgia. It was 4:36 p.m. on a Thursday, the kind of heat that clings to your shirt and makes the porch wood sweat. I stood inside the doorway of a house I had designed, financed, and built, now treated like a trespasser. Amanda blocked the exit. Her brothers stood behind her like hired muscle. Matt had his phone raised, already filming. Trent leaned against the banister, arms folded like he was waiting for a reason. I said, "Drop it," she added, voice sharper now. I didn't. I shifted the duffel on my shoulder, met her eyes steady and calm. He'd be smiling right now, I said. That was all. I walked past her without another word. My boots echoed on the floorboards I'd laid one at a time across 2 long weekends, the same ones her guests used, to compliment while sipping her sangria. Nobody moved, not a sound from any of them. The screen door wheezed open. I stepped onto the porch. The air smelled like cut grass and old dust. The duffel was light, a change of clothes, my shaving kit, a pocket knife, and a white envelope. That was all I needed. Down the steps, across the gravel I'd shoveled and leveled myself. She'd wanted it to sound expensive. Now it sounded like farewell. I reached my truck, unlocked it, tossed the bag in the passenger seat, paused. The way. Pecan tree stood to the left, casting a wide shadow over the lawn. Her father planted it the year she graduated college. She wanted it cut down last fall. Said it dropped too many leaves. He said it gave shade to people who earned it. I got in, closed the door. In the rear view, Amanda was still standing there. Triumphant pose, victory face. She didn't know, not about the envelope, not about what I'd kept quiet. I started the engine. The truck coughed once, then settled. I backed out slow, took my time. Didn't look back. At the end of the street, I didn't turn toward town. I took the back road, the one with no traffic lights. 5 miles later, I pulled into the old roadside diner near the edge of the county, the one where he and I used to stop after lumber runs. Place was half abandoned now, still had the rusted coffee and pies sign. I parked beside a faded blue pickup and stepped inside. The bell on the door still worked. Barely. Inside, one booth had light. I sat there, didn't order, didn't need to. Just reached into the duffel and pulled out the envelope, set it on the table. It was creased, old but sealed. No name. Just his initials in blue pen, cornered neat. WT. I didn't open it, didn't need to. The waitress came over, middle-aged, tired eyes. Coffee? I nodded once. She poured without another word. I took a sip. It was burnt. Familiar. Outside, a truck passed slow, dust trailing behind. Life moving, unbothered. I glanced at my reflection in the diner window. Sun behind me. Shadow. Across my face, she had the house, she had the money, she had her audience, but she didn't have the last thing he ever gave. I pulled out the pocket knife. Ran my thumb along the closed edge. A gift from him. The blade had cut rope, twine, boxes. Never flesh, never lies. I returned it to my pocket, finished the coffee in silence. When I left the diner, the sun was lower, shadows longer. I slid back into the truck. Sat for a moment, then I started driving again. No music, no calls, no destination. The world thought she'd won. Let them. The last moves, never the loudest. The first time I met Walter Turner, he asked me to hold a level while he checked a sagging porch beam. Didn't say hello. Just held it up, nodded toward the rotted board and said, "Level that, if you can." That was him. No small talk. No smile. Amanda and I had been dating 3 months. She was all charm and angles. Knew how to sell a house and herself. I'd met her during a remodel on a listing she was managing. She said she liked men who built things. I said I didn't trust agents who smiled too much. She laughed. We had coffee on the tailgate of my truck. Married less than a year later. Walter didn't show up to the wedding. said he had a bad hip, but a week later he called me, asked if I knew how to reframe a doorway without disturbing original trim. I said yes. He said, "Prove it." That was our beginning. No speeches. Just sawdust, socket wrenches, and old country radio in the background. He'd grunt when I did something right, stay silent when I didn't. He trusted tools more than people. But over time, I became the exception. I reinforced his deck one winter when his knees were giving out, helped him repair a cattle fence that wasn't mine, hauled scrap with him in August heat without being asked, never once charged him. He started, calling me Thatch and short for Thatcher. Said names should be as efficient as hammers. Amanda didn't like how close we got. She never said it outright, but I noticed. She'd skip family dinners, avoid the barn. Once told me, "You're more like his son than his daughter ever was." Didn't answer. There was a tension in her that didn't match her smile, the kind that shows up when someone realizes their story is no longer the center of the room. Still, I believed in the life we were building. We bought the land cheap and cleared it ourselves. I drew the floor plan on graph paper, laid the foundation with my crew, wired the kitchen lights with my own hands. She picked tile colors and light fixtures. I paid attention to load-bearing walls. She paid attention to Instagram. We had our rhythm, or so I thought. It was around year 8 that things started shifting. Walter's health declined. Amanda got busier. Listings, conferences, retreats. She came home smelling like hotels I hadn't stayed in. She changed her passwords, stopped wearing her ring, said I made her feel safe, but said it like it was a bad thing. I didn't confront. Her didn't accuse, I just kept working. Kept showing up at Walter's place to help out. He needed it more than she needed to be questioned. One day, while replacing a support beam on his tool shed, he handed me a thermos of lukewarm coffee, said, "You ever think about what happens if she walks?" I didn't answer. He nodded like that was the answer he expected. Then he added, "You've got more integrity in your left hand than most men have in a full bank account." That was his version of affection. I remember thinking he looked smaller that day. Shoulders drawn. Eyes a little wet, but not from emotion, just age. He didn't say more, but he started writing things down after that. Not for her. For me. I didn't know what he was planning. Didn't ask. Just kept showing up. Quiet. Steady. Like a beam meant to hold more weight than it should. Amanda noticed. She started accusing me of siding with him. Said I was choosing the past over our future. I told her, the past has better footing. That ended the conversation, not the distance, not the cracks. She drifted. He declined. And I stayed, because that's what men like me do. We hold the frame until someone else decides to knock down the house. It didn't break all at once. Things like this don't. They rot. Slow. Quiet. From inside. It started with her phone face down at breakfast. Used to be, she'd scroll Zillow listings while sipping her coffee. Ask what I thought about tile backsplashes in North Carolina. Now silence. Her eyes were there, but not really. The smile only came when she was texting. She stopped asking about my jobs. Stopped eating what I cooked. Stopped coming to the site when I framed the east wall of our new guest house, something she said we needed for hosting potential investors. I built that wall alone, nailed it true, even measured twice. But I knew it was hollow before the drywall went up. I found the credit card bill by accident, sitting half open on the dining table, not hidden, not flaunted, a wellness retreat, 2 tickets. Charleston. Dates, overlapped with the weekend she claimed to be caring for her mother in Chattanooga. I didn't ask, just folded it once, slid it in the back of my ledger where I kept old supply receipts and measurements. Later that night, I saw a silk shirt I'd never seen before laid out on the bed. It wasn't mine. She said it was a client gift. I didn't argue, just made space in the closet without touching it. Walter called the next morning, asked if I could fix a jammed sliding door. I was there by noon. Amanda didn't ask where I'd gone, didn't notice when I stopped checking in. She left town more often, stayed gone longer, came back with new words like alignment and vision clarity. She said I lacked both. One night, she said I'd outgrown my purpose. I nodded once. Didn't ask what that meant. A week later, our joint account started thinning. Not all at once, in pieces. 200 here, 300 there. Entries like personal development coaching, branding audit, sacred feminine, intensive. By the time I noticed what used to be $48,000 was down to $12,300, she was draining it slow. Silent as frost on a window, I moved the remaining funds into a separate account. Legally mine, tied to the company. Didn't tell her, just watched. The night she came home late smelling like cologne that wasn't mine, I was sitting on the porch sharpening a chisel. She walked past me like I was part of the railing. Said nothing. Neither did, but I counted the footsteps. 3 seconds from porch to bedroom, no hesitation, no guilt. The next morning I found the garage reorganized, my tools shoved to the back. Labeled bins appeared, color-coded. She said we needed space. I asked, "For what?" She smiled, said, "For evolution." I went back to sanding the window frame. Walter stopped calling. I found out later Amanda had changed the locks on his place. Told the nurse staff he wasn't to receive non-family visitors without her presence. He didn't have the strength to argue. I wrote him a note. Left it with his neighbor, a retired Navy guy named Ken who owed me a favor. Hold fast, it said. 3 words. That was enough. The day Walter died, Amanda didn't cry. She posted a photo of them on Instagram with the caption, "Goodbye to the man who shaped me." 32 comments. All public grief. She didn't mention me. At the funeral, I stood in the back. Wore the watch he gave me. Didn't speak, didn't sit. After the service, her brothers approached me. Said, "You can go now." I did. Back to the workshop. Back to silence. That night, she came home with champagne and a manila folder, told me we'd be restructuring everything, finances, property, assets, said it was time for the next phase. I asked, "Next phase of what?" She didn't answer, just handed me the folder. Inside, asset transfers, dissolution forms, a note from her lawyer. Her name was on every line, except the bottom. That was left blank. For me. I signed nothing. Next morning, she was gone. So were half the furnishings, and by afternoon I was served divorce papers. Emergency motion to vacate. She filed in her name only. Claimed abandonment. Claimed instability. Claimed the house was hers from the beginning. I didn't argue. Didn't flinch. I packed one bag. Took the watch. Took the envelope. Left the rest. When I walked down those steps for the last time, I wasn't empty. I was waiting, not to react, to remember. Because sometimes, remembering is the sharpest blade you have. I waited 72 hours before making a move, not because I was unsure, but because clarity requires stillness. I drove to the storage unit I hadn't opened in 6 years. Box number 14, back corner. Labeled WT, personal in faded marker. It contained exactly what he said it would. Original deed transfer papers, handwritten notes with initials, a signed document drafted by Walter's personal attorney, dated, witnessed, notarized. Language was precise. In the event of voluntary dissolution of marriage initiated solely by Amanda Turner, the property at 18 Fairgrove Lane shall revert to Cole Thatcher in full. He never told her. Neither did I. I left the unit and drove straight to the law office Walter had used for over a decade. They still had a leather chair with his name on a plaque. Old school respect. I didn't make a speech, just slid the envelope. Across the desk, the partner reviewed it, twice, then looked up and said, "You're going to want to file a preemptive motion for possession." I nodded. By that evening, the motion was filed. By next morning, a temporary freeze was placed on the property. Amanda tried to list the house the following week. The title company flagged the legal dispute. She called me for the first time in 14 Day said, "You think you're clever?" I said, "No, just quiet." Click, I didn't call back. 2 days later, a subpoena was issued requesting documentation of all property acquired during the marriage. Her lawyer responded with a 42-page disclosure. Sanitized, selective, arrogant, but they made a mistake. Buried. On page 37 was a reference to a family trust amendment, dated 5 weeks before Walter passed. They assumed I hadn't seen it, but I had. The amendment named 2 co-trustees. One of them was Amanda, the other was me. I wasn't the heir, I was the key. Her control wasn't total, not anymore. I contacted the financial institution managing the trust, submitted verification, identity proof, and a scanned copy of Walter's last notarized addendum. A trust officer called me back within 48 hours. His voice was calm. Professional. "Mr. Thatcher, we've initiated a partial hold on disbursements, pending resolution of the dispute." Translation: Amanda's inheritance just got locked. Temporarily. She found out 2 days later when her business card declined at a networking gala. That same night, she filed an emergency injunction, claimed I was exploiting technicalities, claimed I was never supposed to be involved. Her lawyer submitted a statement calling me an opportunist with no familial claim. I didn't respond, didn't need to. The judge scheduled a hearing. Amanda arrived with a full team, hair done. Dress, tailored. Smile fake. I wore boots and a jacket Walter gave me during a cold snap 3 years ago. No tie, no explanation. Her lawyer presented first. They painted me as an intruder, a threat, a man who clung to papers and imagined promises. They brought up my income, my lack of formal education, even cited my absence from public-facing roles in her real estate ventures. I sat still. Then the judge turned to me. My attorney handed over a sealed letter, Walter's handwriting on the outside. The judge opened it. Read it silently. Twice. No words spoken. Just a glance in my direction. Then came the ruling. The house could not be sold or transferred until the trust dispute was resolved. The trust funds would remain frozen, jointly managed. All asset movements in the last 90 days were to be audited. Amanda's smile cracked, not shattered, but cracked. She stood in the parking lot afterward. No audience this time. Said, "You think this is over?" I looked at her, calm, unshaken. It hasn't even started. Then I walked past her, got in my truck, drove to the barn, sat on the bench where Walter and I once fixed a rusted chainsaw for no reason other than it deserved one more season. I didn't celebrate, didn't gloat. I just exhaled, long, slow, because this wasn't victory, it was position, and she still had pieces left. But now, so did I. The letter from the trust officer arrived on a Tuesday, stamped, formal, final. Amanda's name was no longer listed under distribution authority. Mine was. I didn't frame it, didn't gloat, just filed it beside the power of attorney Walter signed 2 weeks before he passed. The one she never bothered to read. That night, around 7:40, Amanda came by. No text, no call. Just her car in the driveway like nothing had happened. She knocked once, then let herself in, the way she used to. Like this was still her home. Hair down. No makeup. Just an oversized coat she wore when she didn't want to be seen. She looked smaller somehow. Not thinner. Just diminished. Her steps didn't echo the same way. Like the floor didn't recognize her anymore. "I didn't know he'd leave it to you," she said. No hello, just that. I didn't respond. I waited. I assumed he'd set up something. But this? The trust? All of it? She looked around. The kitchen like she was trying to recognize it, as if grief had rearranged the room. Or maybe guilt had. The silence stretched. I watched her scan the shelves like something might appear to explain it. She crossed her arms, shifted her weight. Took a shallow breath. "I know things got tense, but we could talk. Fix this. He wouldn't want us fighting." That was when I stood up. Didn't raise my voice. "He wanted honesty," I said. "And you sold that with the rest?" She blinked, once, sharply. Her mouth opened, then closed again. "I thought you'd be angry," she said. "I thought you'd come after me, take it all." I nodded slowly. I could have. The fridge clicked on in the background. A low hum under the silence. I walked to the drawer near the sink, opened it carefully, removed a thick envelope, no seal, just folded closed with her name written across the front. Ink slightly smudged like I'd pressed too hard when I wrote it. I set it on the counter between us. She didn't reach for it. It outlines the transition. What's his, what's yours, and what was never yours to begin with. She stepped closer, eyes fixed on the envelope. Her fingers hovered above it, then withdrew like it might burn. Her lips parted slightly. "He trusted you more than me?" It wasn't a question, but I answered anyway. He knew who would build something after he was gone. She looked at me like she wanted to scream or cry or rewind everything. Her hands balled at her sides. Then relaxed. She paced a step back, ran her fingers along the edge of the counter. Just a nervous tick, but it lingered. "So that's it?" she whispered. I nodded once and said what I hadn't told anyone. The man he trusted, he wouldn't have taken everything. So I didn't. She closed her eyes for a moment. I could see her jaw clench beneath the quiet. Silence. Then she looked down, finally picked up the envelope. Her hands trembled, just enough to fold the edge. No thank you, no apology, no tears. Just that dull, distant stare of someone trying not to be the villain in their own story. She held the envelope like a paperweight, something heavy enough to remind her. She turned to leave, brushing past the edge of the counter. I heard the faintest snap. The granite chipped at the corner. She didn't notice, but I did. After the door shut, I didn't move, didn't pour a drink, didn't turn on a light. The hum of the refrigerator faded, then kicked back in. Somewhere outside, a branch hit the side of the house, the same wind that used to whistle through the chimney during winter storms. I ran my fingers over the break in the stone, small, sharp, permanent. It caught the skin just barely, like it wanted to leave a mark. The house was darker than it should have been, but I didn't change it. I stood there, alone. In the same place I'd stood the night Walter told me about the trust. That night, he'd poured 2 fingers of rye and said, "Some people inherit money. Others inherit responsibility. Guess which? One lasts longer. I never forgot it." She broke trust. I left the mark visible. Some fractures deserve to stay, and some names don't belong on the deed, even if they used to have keys. I didn't move back into the house. It sat there, quiet, perfectly staged, the way Amanda had wanted it. Every drawer labeled, every curtain double-lined. A showpiece for people who never stayed long. But it never felt like home. I stayed in the guest cabin behind Walter's property, the one he used to call the shed with plumbing. Small porch, 2 chairs, 1 table. No TV, just trees outside and silence inside. I slept better there. In the mornings, I'd make coffee the old-fashioned way. Grounds, kettle, no machine. The kind of routine that slows you down just enough to hear your own thoughts. Some days, I'd sit on the steps watching the mist roll down the valley. Other days, I'd read Walter's old notebooks. Legal pads filled with sketches, ideas, half-finished letters. He never threw them away. Said they helped him think. One margin read, "If legacy is just money, it dies with interest, but character pays forever." I remember the day Amanda's lawyer called. He wanted a meeting. Amicable closure, he said. I declined. Sent the envelope back through certified mail, along with the trust documents and a formal letter releasing her from any claim of misappropriation. She didn't contest. There's a quiet dignity in not chasing applause. A month later, I met with the new board of trustees. Walter had appointed me chairman in the final draft, quietly. No announcement, just his signature and a note. "You'll know what to do, or who to ask." He was right. I didn't do everything myself. But I knew who had ethics, not ambition. I picked slow hands, people who had more calluses than business cards. We didn't grow the trust fast, but we made it clean. Last quarter, we funded a literacy program in Walter's name, 5 counties. Hundreds of students, real work, not ribbon cutting. Amanda didn't attend the launch event, but I saw her name once marked on a donor list at a gallery downtown. Small amount. Quiet contribution, no photo, no speech. Maybe that was her apology. Maybe not. I don't need it. I walk more now. Just after sunrise. A habit I picked up from Walter, when he was trying to outrun the lawyers, as he used to say. There's a bench near the ridge, half buried in ivy. He built it after his wife passed. Didn't even use nails and just notches and rope. Still holds. I sit there sometimes and just listen. Not for answers. Just for the reminder that not everything has to be said to be understood. The town forgot. The scandal quicker than I expected. Small places have short memories when no one gives them more fuel. People just moved on. So did I. I kept the chipped piece of granite from the kitchen, carried it in my coat pocket for a while, like a reminder. But one day I left it on the windowsill of the cabin. It's still there. Weathered. Honest. I never changed my number. Amanda never called, and I'm fine with that. Some endings don't need reunions. Just resolve. Walter used to say, character shows in the silence between choices. I used to think that was just something he said to sound wise. Now I know better. I never wanted revenge. I wanted peace. And when you choose peace, not because it's easier but because it's right, you realize something important. You don't need to win to walk away whole. You just need to know who you are when no one's watching. So here I am, unwatched, unapplauded, unmoved, and finally, unburdened. The gentleman's revenge isn't loud, but it's always personal. If this felt personal, make it personal. Subscribe now, and don't miss tomorrow's story.